Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into another episode of the Paul Leslie Hour. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Hey, it's me. Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite a moment. We're with a man of music. Our guest, John DeNicola, is a songwriter, musician, producer, recording artist. He has written some songs that are enduring pop hits. All of you know Hungry Eyes and I've Had the Time of My Life. Well, he's released his debut album as a recording artist, and it's called The Why Because. It includes both of those songs, among some other selections. And recently, his song Hungry Eyes hit the top 30 national adult contemporary charts. I guess that just shows you can't stop a great song. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Paul.
So what made you think now is the time? Now is the time to release my first album?
That is a great question. It sort of just unearthed itself and kind of fell in naturally. A year or so ago, I don't even know if time goes so quick these days. I'm not sure how long ago it was, a couple of years. And I put a recording studio in my upstate New York residence in a barn. And we started to check the acoustics out, right away in the big room. And I had my son set up his drums and I started recording. And we ended up, redoing. There's a first song on the record. It's called You're the Only One. And I also wrote that with Frankie Previtt, and who I was my co-writer for the Dirty Dancing songs. And it was in a movie by Sylvester Stallone called Avenging Angelo, and was sung by Steve Holy. But it was never released as a piece of music. It was just in the film. So I always loved that song. I thought it was one of our better songs that we put out into the world. And I thought, somebody else can do that song. We can try and get another cover on that. And I heard it a certain way in my head, which was kind of like a Glenn Campbell, Jimmy Webb type song. That's how I was hearing the song. And I started to pursue that. And when it came time to get somebody to sing it, I said, who can I get to sing this song? And I just decided to do it myself and figured, well, maybe I can just put together a bunch of songs as an artist, sort of, and that would be an impetus for covers, for other artists to go, oh, I like this song by this guy, John DeNicola. So that's how it evolved. One song came after another, and people were unexpectedly responding to my voice in a very positive way. I never really thought of myself as a singer. I'd sing backup, and maybe in my club date early, cover band stuff when I was a kid, sang a couple of lead vocals. But I never really thought of myself as a lead vocalist. And I don't know. All of a sudden, one thing led to another, and I started doing this song and that song of mine. And lo and behold, a record formed, and it kind of informed me as to who I am as an artist, which, I spent all those years getting in other people's heads, what would this artist sing or what would that artist sing? And then it's sort of almost, it was so much fun to just reveal who I am after all these years. And, I wonder if I'd done it sooner or earlier, it wouldn't be as, I don't know. I'm in a certain place in my life where I can sort of call on my years of experience, and I'm laying all the tracks down pretty much, except for drums, myself and a couple of guest people on each song. But the singing is sort of like the last thing I do, and I'm like, I don't know. All of a sudden, it sounded pretty good, so I went with it.
Oh yeah. I was playing the album here, and my wife said, wow, who is that? Turn that up. Your voice sounds really, really good. I'm really, really enjoying the album.
That's great. I'm appreciative when people. That's the whole point. Is just to get. The bottom line is to get the music out there and into people's ears. For me, that was, a lot of these songs. Some of these songs were written to be covered by artists, but never were. So it's nice to get them out into the world and to be heard.
On that note, all the things that you do, from songwriting, record producing, now being a recording artist yourself, singing, is there a part of music that you would say is the most satisfying?
Huh. When it's all said and done, and I know I've built a lot of the tracks, if not most of the tracks, and I've recorded it through. I use a lot of analog, kind of vintage analog gear, and tape machines, and so when all that's put into place, and it comes back through the speakers, sounding great, that's the most satisfying. I was speaking with a radio station down in South Carolina a little earlier that interviewed me too. And they had just listened to You're the Only One and were duly, they enjoyed it. They liked it. And that's the first song on the Why Because. That song, if I was to pick the song that I'm most satisfied with the way it makes me feel, the way it sounds, and from what was in my head and what got across on the recording, it's probably my favorite thing I've ever done. I love everything on the record, but that song, I feel like I could say that's John DeNicola as an artist right there.
There was a singer-songwriter that I interviewed a couple years ago, and he had recorded an album back in the 70s, and just now he was coming out with his second album after all these years, and he was telling me that it made him nervous to wonder, like, how's this going to be received? Was there any nerves at all when it was like, okay, this is my debut?
Yeah. Not really. Only because, I get to hear it. I lived with it. And, I'm the kind of songwriter, producer, whatever, that, when it doesn't sound good to me, I'll cringe, or I'll be like, oh, it just didn't come home the way I wanted it to. When I listen back to this record, everything was as I wanted it to be, maybe better than what I wanted it to be. So I had, I felt I'd laid it down and gotten myself across as an artist as best as I felt like people would like it. I just felt that confident in it. And I'm not that kind of person necessarily, and in a way, the fact that it's me as an artist and my record that I've probably felt the most confident in. I can't really explain why that is. Maybe because it's, I'm a heartfelt or a gut player, a gut writer. Everything is on a gut level. I don't think about anything really. It's all just, I just play and I sing and I write. So maybe that's, I'm familiar with everything that I laid down, there. So, and it was all in my hands. A lot of times, with the original Hungry Eyes and original Time of My Life, we set demos out to these artists that covered them and sang them, but the tracks were out of our hands. It's somebody else producing those tracks. So this was fun for me because not only was I producing, I'm the songwriter. So I think all that together made me feel good about the project. That said, the most nervous I was my release party. I had to go up and perform these songs. Now, I'm a studio rat and I can do that. But now I had to be out in front of people and, not being not having sung lead vocals, in a band for most of my life, it was, it felt kind of weighty up there. And, especially when you have to put a song like I've Had the Time of My Life across, or Hungry Eyes, and so that was the most nervous I felt, how it would be taken in live.
I'll confess I'm a John Waite fan, and when I saw on the titles of the songs In God's Shadow, my first thought was, oh, like the John Waite song? And I did not know that you co-wrote that, and I'm hoping you can tell us about that. It also appears on the album.
Yes, that was a song that I wrote with John, a fellow named Anthony Crizon, who was in, what was the name of that band? I can't think of his band, but sorry, Anthony. But Anthony Crizon, Spin Doctors. And then the fourth writer and main lyricist was Keith Reed, who wrote Whiter Shade of Pale and did most of the lyrics for Procol Harum, if not all. And so, we recorded that back in the 90s on a John Waite record, and it was up-tempo and kind of a rockin' vibe. And as I was searching through songs that I had co-written with people, that came up as one that I thought I could reinvent in a way, in my own way. And I slowed it down, and I tried to make it sound like an English folk song type, song. So that's how that came about. I did run it by both John and Keith to make sure they were okay with me covering it, and they both were. And actually, both of them really loved the version. So, but John is someone I wrote a lot with. In fact, we just touched base recently, actually just before the pandemic hit. And he had listened to some demos we had done that were never released, never recorded as, on a record. And he was loving them and wondered if we shouldn't try and resurrect them. There was about 3 or 4, maybe 5 songs.
Interesting. Well, on the note of John Waite, there have been so many great singers who have recorded songs that you wrote. Eric Carmen, Bill Medley, a fan of, so many people are a fan of. Is there a version of one of your songs that in particular you think, wow, they really knocked it out?
Well, all of them really. I mean, Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes, that was a perfect vocal, really. I mean, that helped sell that song, I think. Couldn't ask for more. A child of the 60s. I loved those Righteous Brothers songs. And, that's what Jimmy Einer, who was the music director, was trying to call on that, mid-60s, early 60s Righteous Brothers vibe by having Bill Medley sing The Time of My Life. So, I'm impressed with that. John Waite, of course, anything he sings, he could sing, as they say, that he could sing the phone book. He just has one of the greatest rock voices, really, of all time. So, yeah, I guess I'd have to go with Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes on the way they put that song across.
I think we're living in a time where music is more important than ever. So for anybody who listens to the Why Because, which I suggest they do, what do you hope that they get from the experience of listening?
Well, I would hope, my number one hope is to just get the songs out into the air and into people's ears. That's the number one reason for doing the record. I guess also to hopefully feel that they experience something that was heartfelt. I think, I'm not a great singer, never was, but if there's anything I can do is and that's what people in the industry always talk about. I mean, it seems that because people are responding to this record and they're responding to my voice, I'm singing from my heart. I'm singing honestly, to the best of my ability, and like I said, people are responding really well to my voice, particularly, which is the last thing I expected. That's the last thing I thought people would go, "Oh, wow, you have a good voice." That I never expected. That's sort of, gravy in this situation. But I think if it's anything they're responding to, it's an honesty, because that's how I approach my music. It's heartfelt, and I was weaned on that kind of stuff. A Steve Winwood, Bob Mosley from Moby Grape, people who just sang from the heart. And that's what I try and get across, and that's what I would hope people would respond to.
I always like to give the guest the stage at the end. For anyone who's tuned in, wherever they are, what would you like to say to anyone who's listening?
Well, gosh, there's so much politics going on these days. I'm going to say, we did a video. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, for Hungry Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And we had the idea, actually my wife had the idea, of asking people to turn their iPhone sideways and put a COVID mask on and express like we do through our eyes, and had them send it to me, and we kind of put a montage of that together. And my son was still here before he went back to New York City. He was here with us, sort of quarantining, and he's a film guy, and so he got me performing the song, and then we would intersperse all the people with face masks. So I guess the message I would like to get to people right now, and is the same as what the video does, is we need to wear our masks for a little while. We need to, we shouldn't be fighting this. Just that's our only defense to coronavirus, and to not acknowledge that, and to keep, I'm doing a little heavy-handed here. The video is much more subtle, but the point is put on the mask. Put on the mask. We need to do this at least for a few more months, 6 months, 8 months, a year. Who knows how much longer? But that's our only defense right now, and I don't know why anybody would be fighting that. That's my message.
Anyone out there, they can go to John Dash or John hyphen, and it's DeNicola.
Actually, you don't actually need. I'm sorry. I'm
go ahead.
Interrupt. It could just be either one, John Dash DeNicola or just JohnDeNicola.com. Both are okay.
So I put all these labels on you, that you're a singer, a songwriter, a recording artist, a producer. Who would you say John DeNicola is at heart?
Wow, that puts me on the spot. Well, kind of a family guy, animal person. Feet on the ground. I was raised very, very middle class, and my dad was a bricklayer. We were a working family. We all worked for him, and so I'm grateful for the success I've been able to have, and to stay in the music business, and realize my humble beginnings. And feel like everyone should have that opportunity to thrive. So, it's hard to define. Just someone who loves music, and the most fun I have is out here in the barn in my, I'll call it a man cave, but it's my recording studio, and between my wife, my dogs, and my son when he comes up here and the studio, I'm completely content.
Excellent. Well, sir, congratulations on the album. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Until next time. Thank you for listening to the Paul Leslie Hour. Hosted, written, and produced by Paul Leslie. Intro theme song, Alexander's Ragtime Band, written by Irving Berlin, performed by Dan Barrett. Outro scatting G-Things, improvised, performed, and produced by John Goodwin. Until next time.
Goodbye.